Love, Death and Robots hit Netflix just 3 days ago, and I can quite honestly say I've never seen a show like it. With 18 episodes ranging from 7 minutes to 17 minutes in length, this anthology drops you off into the world that somebody's in, and you either watch their demise, their victory, or you just follow an event that they're in for a matter of minutes. As well, the difference in animation in the majority of this first season of the show is something that was incredibly unique for a viewing experience, and it added to the one-of-a-kind show that it is. However, this video is not a review. It's a ranking of all of the episodes. So, which is best? Well, let's find out. Before I go ahead, if you want to support the channel in a different way, then I've recently set up a Patreon. Over there, you can get your hands on some exclusive content and some perks that will be just for you. Take a look and see what you think. So without further ado, I'm Brain Pilot, and here is Love, Death and Robots every episode ranked. Just to let you know, there will be spoilers. Number 18, When the Yoghurt Took Over. In last place on this list is the episode titled When the Yoghurt Took Over. This was an episode that I really enjoyed the animation of, and I thought that visually it was extremely pleasing on the eye. It reminded me of the Mii characters that you used to be able to create on the Nintendo Wii. But coming in at one of the shortest episodes, it maybe did need a little more time to explain itself. A yogurt took over society and seemed to have all of the answers, and then it left society in ruin, and then finally left planet Earth. I didn't quite know what to make of it. I didn't know whether it was about consumerism, the advancement of technology, or politicians not following strict guidelines. Or maybe it just meant nothing at all. But for me, this ending was the one that was definitely the most confusing. Number 17, Fish Night. Fish Night is an episode that I most definitely appreciated the style of animation for. It was again something that was extremely different, and it made a change watching an episode that looked like this. The story, however, I found was a little on the boring side. Two salesmen broke down in the middle of the desert, and the young salesman, all frustrated, goes to sleep, whilst the older one reminisces about how where they are standing used to be the ocean and nurtured all of this life that doesn't exist anymore. Later on in the episode, he wakes up and you see all of the spirits of all of the sea creatures that there used to be swimming around the car. Again, visually, it was good. Once that happened, the young man joined the fish and eventually got eaten by a shark. I think that it signifies that the young man died during the night and didn't survive the scorching temperatures and lack of water. I liked the way that the story was told, but it just didn't hook me in. And I don't feel as though the point of it is actually that clear. Number 16, Lucky 13. I thought this episode was an interesting one. The CGI was incredible, and it stood up when compared to some of the others. You follow the story of a spaceship that normally ended up returning with the majority of the crew killed. However, this particular pilot took a shining to it, and she always remained safe in it. The main character's love for the ship is the main element to this episode, and the superstition surrounding it that she seems to be immune to. It has a lot of action in it, a lot of battles, and a journey that you feel somewhat satisfied with. Number 15. The Secret War. The Secret War is the last episode in this anthology, and what a finish to the season it is. The CGI far surpasses any of the other episodes, and the story has depth to it that although only 17 minutes, it feels completely longer. In a good way, that is. Following Russian soldiers in what would be World War II, there are these monsters that have been summoned from the underworld, and you witness the soldiers fight until the very end. There is a father-son relationship in it, acts of camaraderie, and it just has that classic feel to it. Number 14, Ice Age. If I'm being honest, the acting in this episode is terrible. Really terrible. However, I like the concept. This is the only episode that includes real actors not transformed in any way, and they essentially have a civilization growing in their freezer. As the episode goes on, you see civilization advance through several stages until it passes the point that our own civilization is currently at. It gets to the point where a whole machine is built inside of it, and it completely disappears. Before this though, you see lights flying all over the place, and a city that you would one day hope that you'd actually be living in. Although, right at the end, the freezer seems to have been reset and we are back with the dinosaurs. My guess would be that it's just like life. It goes round in cycles over and over again. It's a cool concept, executed in a good way, but the acting just isn't that great. Number 13. Blind Spot. Now this is an episode that had me hooked from the off. Animated cyborg criminals in a futuristic world carrying out what seems to be like the Great Train Robbery. This was one of the shorter episodes, and I feel as though the runtime was perfect. You see all of the criminals destroyed as they're trying to commit their crime. All to, at the end, have their minds backed up onto hard drives. It's a great twist that I didn't see coming, but I suppose in a world that advanced, it's obvious. Number 12. Alternate Histories. Alternate Histories look like a game that you'd be able to play online. It's definitely the most humorous episode out of all of the ones in the season. But I would say it's the most stupid as well. All these different scenarios are all well and good and funny, but by the time the fourth had been played, I didn't really find it funny anymore. The animation was cool and suited the mood and style of the episode, but I just got a bit bored by the end. Number 11. Shapeshifters. This was an episode that I thoroughly enjoyed. Out at war, you see these two werewolves disguised as men, who have joined the armed forces and help out their fellow soldiers. However, several other soldiers aren't fond of them being on the same side, seeing as though that seems what they're fighting against. You see the transformation of the werewolves on screen, and they were terrifying. The battle was immense, and although fighting for his country, he ended up being outcast by them all. It's a striking image. A soldier walking out with his friend in his arms, outcast by everyone. Number 10. Sunny's Edge. This was the first episode in the season, and you know what? It was pretty decent. Seeing the fight on screen and throughout all of it, trying to understand what her edge was extremely occupying on the mind. It had you questioning it throughout. However, it's the double twist at the end that makes this episode. The fact that she gets stabbed through the face, leaving her dead, is the first twist, and you think it's done. But then the second twist, where her edge is actually the fact that she wasn't the woman. Her role was reversed compared to every other competitor. I thought it was a great double twist. Number 9. Zima Blue. Zima Blue is an episode that's about an artist who is renowned for his specific shade of blue on his murals. The more and more famous he gets, he just isn't satisfied at all. After not holding an interview for over 100 years, he finally does, and it's to unveil his final piece of work and have his story told. It's here where we find out that although he is this huge cyborg character that can go against anything, he was once a mere swimming pool cleaner and had one job. That one job that he had back then left him more satisfied compared to the fame and fortune and the work that he has now. I think this is a good representation of what it's like in the real world. Although people may have all the money in the world and be extremely well known, it doesn't always make them happy, and this episode reflects that perfectly. Number 8. Good Hunting. Good Hunting is an episode that I would say is completely different to all of the episodes in the anthology. It's one that I enjoyed, but it just didn't quite grab me or give me the hard-hitting ending that I think it wanted to. It has a clear narrative that allows you to connect with Liang and Yan, and you favour their side all of the time. As well, it has a twist about perception of people and not judging too quick, which I think is quite powerful, but I just didn't find it that entertaining. Number 7. Helping Hand. Helping Hand literally lives up to the title. She gets screwed over, needs a hand, and takes her own. Literally. It's a piece of television that had me on edge at points, and I didn't know whether or not she would make it back to her ship. The views from outer space looked spectacular, and as the oxygen is counting down, and she rips off her own arm, you can only imagine the pain that she's in. Number 6. The Dump. The Dump is one of the lighter episodes of the anthology, with an inspection man coming round to kick out the man who's living on the dump. You hear the tale of his friend and the monster that feeds off of the trash that's there. It eventually eats the inspector, and that's basically it. It's a light-hearted episode that made me laugh on several occasions. As well, this transition had me going back several times. Number 5. 3 Robots. The first episode in the top 5 is the episode titled 3 Robots. It's another light-hearted episode, but with a deeper meaning. There are 3 robots that are visiting Earth as tourists. and it seems as though there's no civilization left. Only the remains of what looks like the 21st century. It was all light-hearted, until the moment where one of the robots looks directly down the camera and states how humans ruined the planet that they lived on. We believed that we were the pinnacle species on the planet, and that we poisoned the water, killed the land, and choked the sky. It's a message that is extremely relevant in today's world, and an image and an all too similar tale of what barren wasteland our planet can become. Number 4. Sucker of Souls. Sucker of Souls is an episode in the show that has a take on Dracula that I've never seen before. A group of mercenaries have been hired by an archaeologist to protect him whilst he's uncovering all that he needs to about the monster. However, it doesn't turn out that great for them, and it almost turns into a Temple Run style show where they're running away from Dracula, a beefed out Dracula that grew bigger after he ate the assistant. Following the escape and the realization that Dracula is afraid of cats, they end up in a cave full of those creatures. It was definitely an episode that was entertaining, and it reminded me of just old school animation that was just a bit rough around the edges. Number 3. The Witness. Number 3 on this list is the episode titled The Witness. I loved this episode. A woman witnesses a man murder herself, but she doesn't know it yet. There is then a chase around the whole of the city until they end up encountering each other and the roles get reversed. She ends up killing him and he witnesses the murder of himself. One thing that I loved was the way that the sound effects of the noises that were being made were visualized on screen, and they'd appear as knocks and taps when made. As well, some of the shots of the city looked real. It didn't look like animation or CGI at all. It's definitely one of the best episodes. Number 2. Suits. This episode follows farmers having to protect their land from creatures known as DBs. They are known for invading it and trying to kill the community. This episode has camaraderie, ups, downs, a narrative that takes you on a wholesome journey, and animation that is extremely pleasant to watch. The climax of the episode sees the farmers fighting in their suits against the DBs, and one of them sacrificing themselves whilst trying to save the others. It's an episode that, although being quite heavy and dark, it also feels quite light and easy to watch. Although there is a happy ending, after panning further and further out, it shows us that there are more of these creatures ready to break through the wall at any point, highlighting that this will most likely happen again. Number 1. Beyond the Aquila Rift. Coming in at number 1 on this list is the episode Beyond the Aquila Rift. This is an episode that I think is not only interesting to watch, has a strong narrative, has CGI that looks completely real, but it has moments that stand out for being extremely powerful. After inserting coordinates to travel to Earth, Tom's ship ends up in a place that he has no idea of at all. Although he's greeted by somebody who he hasn't seen in years but is a familiar face, he becomes comfortable. After becoming suspicious that where he is isn't actually real, he's shown the truth about where he has landed. It turns out that on his way back to Earth, he was captured by an alien species that clearly likes to acquire these ships and its crew, and it feeds them this false reality. This is shown to us by seeing Tom in a starved state, with his crew dead and other ships surrounded by this alien's web. The monster is definitely one of the scariest and most haunting that there was in the anthology, and I truly believe that this episode ticks all of the right boxes. What makes the ending even better is that once Tom realizes where he is, he awakes in the false reality, unaware of everything that he's just seen. This is most definitely, in my opinion, the best episode in the anthology. So, there you have it. What I believe is the episode ranking in Love, Death and Robots. Before you go, make sure you follow me on Twitter @BrainPilot_, and tell me if you agree or disagree. If you want to see what I've rated many TV shows and movies, then go over to my Letterboxd profile, comment a movie and I'll rate it over there. As well, over on the community page I've started releasing polls. Have a vote and have your say on what videos you see on this channel. Do you agree with my ranking? Leave a comment down below and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.